all know Rotarians in your own club who has never experienced Rotary? Yeah, I see some shaking heads. I know a lot. I'm in a club of 230 members. And so, we have a lot of numbers, but I would tell you, we don't have a lot who experience Rotary. Let's start with some foundational terms, if we will. If you're taking notes, here we go. Let's get your notepad out. So what is diversity? Because my friends today, I'm going to give you some tools that when you go and have these conversations with people who don't like Bowtie Todd, how you can start it. Okay. I think the first thing we have to do with level set on what do these words mean to us. So many times we come into the diversity and inclusion conversation and we assume and expect the other people or everybody in the room to know what we're talking about. Like, yeah, we want diversity. Well, what does that mean? So here's some definitions that I want to share with you what these positions mean to me. When I think of the word diversity, diversity to me is twofold. Diversity is visible and invisible differences that make someone complete. Okay, so visibly, you see me on camera right now. If you're paying attention, you see a good looking brown guy over here with a bow tie on. That is my visible difference. But invisible, you may not know, I'm one of 13 kids. I can hablar Espanol and falo Portuguese. I'm afraid of heights, but I love to travel in planes. So I want people to understand when you show up to this word of diversity, it is important what you see on the outside, but it's as equally as important the things you cannot see, like your experiences, your ideas, your socioeconomic status, your abilities, your sexual orientation, etc. Make sense? Okay, so we get diversity. Let's go to this next word that we throw out a lot lately, inclusion. I mean, if you don't say that word in the sentence, it's like you're not cool. Inclusion, what is that buzzword? Well, inclusion to me is also very simple. Inclusion is creating an intentional environment, a climate where we behave in a way that we respect all these visible and invisible differences. Okay. And not only just respect, but ensuring that individuals are seen and heard. My friends today, you may be wondering, why did I put heard in my definition? Miss Angela, if you don't mind muting your mic, that would be grateful. I love you. Thank you. And so the interesting piece is that, why did you put heard in your definition? Well, my friends today, how many of you all know you could be doing a lot of talking, but that does not mean anyone is listening? So it's very important that if we want to strive for inclusive climate and culture, that our individuals are seen and heard. And the interesting thing, what did I not say? I did not say we all have to agree. I'm not going to say that everyone's going to be happy, but we want to create the environment that people can be their authentic self. And I think we could do that in Rotary, but we cannot talk about true inclusive work without talking about equity. And it is a difference between equity and equality. Okay. I work with corporate leaders every day, and corporate leaders, they always tell me, hey, we are striving for equality in our workforce. And I said, okay, let equality be your baseline. Let's strive for equity. And they like, huh, what are you talking about? Because it is a difference. And business leaders, they get like, business equity, but I'm talking about social human equity. And the best way I could do it, because I used to write this like nice book and I give them all this research. They don't read that. But one thing I do now is I just lift up my foot and I show them my shoe. I wear a size 10.5 brown shoe. I have it on now. It's my favorite shoe. And when it comes to equality, here's the difference. Equality is Van get a shoe, Paulette get a shoe, Tracy get a shoe, Chris get a shoe. It's like Oprah, everybody gets shoes, okay? That is equality. But equity is giving everyone on this call a shoe that fits them. Now, let's think about that. Matter of fact, let's see here. Miss Tracy, can you hear me okay? If you don't mind unmuting your camera. How you doing? How you doing tonight?
Good.
Great. Miss Tracy, if you don't mind sharing with the group, what is your favorite color shoe to wear?
My favorite color shoe to wear is a blue shoe.
Blue. I like brown, so we're in the B family just a little bit. What about your shoe size, if you don't mind sharing?
8.
8. Okay. So Miss Tracy, how will you feel if I asked you to show up to work every day with my size 10.5 brown shoe on?
My shoes would be flopping off my feet, so not so good.
Thank you, Miss Tracy. So my friends, did y'all hear that? I asked Miss Tracy, how would she feel if I asked her to show up to work every day with my size 10 and a half brown shoe on? What did Miss Tracy say? She said my shoe would be flopping and I probably wouldn't be happy. But what did Miss Tracy not say? She did not say, Dr. Jenkins, I don't care about your ugly shoe. It's not my color, it's not my size, and I'm not showing up to work. Here's my point, my friends. We actually have people showing up to our spaces every day with shoes that are given to them that is not their size and is flopping around and they're not happy. Some been wearing these shoes so long that they forgot how unhappy that they are. And now they're discontent. Why are we talking about this day, Dr. Jenkins? We're Rotarians. We don't have these. This is not in our club. Well, here's the issue, my friends. We are dealing with human beings. We are in an organization of differences. We have the 4-way test that we abide by and align our values. We have Rotary core values. Why are we talking about this? Well, first of all, I would tell you that it's a moral case, and some people on this call will agree that this is the right thing to do. We want to give everyone the right shoe that fits them, right? Yeah, some people agree. I would tell you that some people don't agree with that. Okay, let's go to the next case while we're talking about this. We call it the social case. The world is changing. My community is changing. So we got to change as well. And some people agree with that. Yeah, we got to change. But I would tell you, I met a lot of Rotarians that don't agree with that either. But one case that really stick really well, especially in corporate America, it says it's the business case. And it says that if we get this right, we will make more money and save money. And ooh, everybody want to meet with Dr. Todd then. And I mean, you should see it. I get a lot of the one-to-ones. And I think we also have a business case for Rotary. Think about it. If we don't get this right, all that work that we have done, I'm unfortunately would tell you that it will not go to the grave with you. It would just be floating somewhere. Because our legacy will not live on. Our pillars will not be lifted up. And we just won't be bigger and better and stronger. And so I really do believe that we have an imperative that we do this in Rotary. And guess what inclusion is? Inclusion is everyone is invited, everyone's included, and everybody wins, including straight white old men. Everybody win in inclusion. And why do you have to say that out loud? Because when I work with leaders and they tell me, especially I would say middle-aged white men, I'm not saying that's anyone on this call, but what they would tell me is like, hey, you're saying that I'm not valued. You're saying that it's not about me. I'm saying, yes, it is. It's all about you and more. That's what we're saying. And what I want people to understand when we do this work, we're not talking about handouts, but we're talking about hand-ins. How can we bring people in to experience Rotary? And so that's what we want to talk about today, because we don't want to do this diversity quotas. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is how do we create an environment and a culture that this is who we are. This is what we think, say, and do as Rotarians, right? I think we all want to strive for that. And I also have seen a lot of Rotarians that is very well great intentions to do this work. And I want you to start with thinking about your intentions. But you can't just start with your intentions because I can't see your intentions. But what I can see is your behaviors. And how are we behaving in a way that we're building inclusive ecosystems in our communities? That's an interesting question I think we should start with. Before we point the fingers at everybody else, because when I do this, once again, when I work with organizations, I say, write down the challenges and the problems you have in your organizations around diversity and inclusion. Do you know, out of the 10 years of my experience, do you know not one has ever written down their own name? No one ever thinks they're, no, not me. No, you're talking about this, and that person, that. My friends, the first message that I want to give you as a tool is that if you want to move from diversity and inclusion in Rotary, you first believe, and it's not rocket science. Inclusion starts with the letter I. It starts with, how do I show up? What is my blind spots? What is my reflection of who I am and how I insert myself in this space? And don't give me this thing, oh, I've been doing this for 75 years. I'm not, nope, 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 nope. Age is just a number and maturity is just a mindset. Okay. So I want people to understand, don't let your age be a factor of your ability to be bigger and better, because we all made that pledge. So that's rule number one. If you want to start this work, you want to start with your own journey and understanding who you are and how you show up. Number two, as you go into your clubs, you really want to have the conversation of what these words mean. Don't expect for everyone to think how you think. And we know that because of diversity of thought. So we want to align on what these words mean. Rotary has done a position statement, if you will. So that gives you a great conversation starter. The next thing I will go and say as you have this discussion with your members is that you want to do a gap analysis, if you will. And this is very simple, is that, you want to ask, where are we today? Where do we wish to go? Now, here's the tricky part, and what we're going to do to get there. It's very simple. I mean, I get paid a lot of money just to do that in organizations. And I think we could do that in Rotary. I'm being a friend because I'm a Rotarian telling you this today. Like, we could do this. You assess your club. It's very simple. We have everyone on this call are leaders. Everyone on this call has an opportunity to impact this work. What we are not trying to do is change people. I'm going to tell you that right now. You could try. This is going to take a long time to do it. But what we're trying to do is, honestly, I'm not trying to even make people fit, but we're trying to make sure Rotary can fit all people. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure when people come to our club, they don't feel like they have to be the first one. When people come to our club, they don't feel like, oh man, since you're letting me in because of my background, it's like, oh, we're being so progressive, like people, we want it to become norm, but you do got to start somewhere. That's why a gap analysis allow for you to look at where you at as a club. Okay. So do that club assessment. I'm almost done. I'm going to open it up for questions. Okay. I see some hands raised and I want to get to Q&A for the last 15. The next thing I would say, last but not least, before I open it up for questions, you also need to understand that you don't have to do this work by yourself. It takes a village. And we're all on a journey here, my friends. And so you need to be sure to give yourself some space and grace and understand that you have to create the space to even articulate a draft. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's okay to give your rough draft in your space. That's why I tell my teams all the time. Go ahead and say what you got to say. It could be your rough draft, but I'm going to invite you to be vulnerable and share your truth, because that is where we're going to make a difference. So give yourself some space and grace and understand that we all come into this journey differently. And honestly, it's not fair for me to judge or you to judge that person based on where they're at in their journey. But we all understand that collectively, we can change this world. Look at what we have done. We eradicated polio. I mean, look what we could do. And please, before I open it up for Q&A, please don't ask me tonight, is this political? Okay, I'm just going to say that right now before we get into the Q&A session. If you want to talk, Rotary is a very political organization. If you didn't think, look at our org. Think about it. We have all types. It takes an average 33 years before you can become a zone leader, average. Think about that. So we got to really understand people choose what they want to be political. And I'm going to tell you what we're talking about right now is human race, humanity, and good for all people. So please don't take it as a political agenda, but it's an agenda to continue to do good, which that's why I'm so passionate about this. And that's why we're having this conversation, because we believe that there's an opportunity to do that. So as I land here, my friends, I want you to know that we have resources that can also support. I'm going to put my link in the chat. If you want to look at the Rotary resources that we have, even on international level, where you can go and do a diversity assessment of your club. It's a lot of great hot topics, how to talk to, with intergenerational. We're going to have another panel, a global panel next week about abilities and disabilities in Rotary. We're talking about sexual orientation and gender and pronouns, all those great stuff that is going to take some time for learning for some individuals that may be on their start. And it's okay, but are you willing to put in the work? Because I need you. My baby son, Mateo, needs you, because I believe when he grow up, I want him to see that Rotary is a place for him. And I think we can all work collectively to make that happen. So thank you all so much for letting me crash your party. I apologize for any technical where we wasn't able to do the PowerPoint, but hopefully this was still helpful and that we were just able to have an authentic conversation. And I want to also do that for the next 15 minutes, and let's open it up for Q&A.
So, Todd, I want to thank you. This was the 7th time I've seen you speak. I've learned something new every time. So you are fantastic. So what we're going to do is, if you have a question for Todd, put your reaction, raise your hand in a reaction, and Kate Sims, who's the moderator, will call you, and you unmute yourself and ask the question. So if anybody has a question, we'll go through. I don't see anybody's hands up yet in the reaction. Oh,
No,
I see Prasad. Okay, Prasad, unmute yourself.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Or a comment. We do the four-way test. Every meeting in everywhere we do four-way test. The first question is it the truth? Second one is it fair to our concerns? We are deciding what is fair to other people when we say that thing. But what I think is fair to one person may not be fair to somebody else. So how do we decide that? We keep repeating that in every meeting, but we are sure what I think fair is not fair thing for everybody. So how do we deal with that?
Yeah. So
Did I ask that question right? Is that make sense?
Oh, yeah. You're asking, I think that's the question that we have to discover as Rotary. What do we really mean? Is it fair for all concerned? And for whom is it fair? Who does it benefit? So I think that's a question that I empower you to have with your club. And then even ask some other questions, my friends, like, why do we even have the four-way test? Who created that? Anybody want to have some trivia tonight? Anybody want to say where did the
1956, something, Herbert Taylor came up with that for a particular, the business, to bring up the dying business, to train their salesmen and the marketing people.
Oh, look at this. This is a smart district. I love that. And that is the question that we have to ask ourselves, is ask why and why not to some of the things that we have, because sometimes our policies and procedures and our systems that's in place, we don't even know how it got here, but we practice it every day. And sometimes that keeps from the fairness and the equity piece that we're trying to strive for. For example, the Rotary, we don't own the four-way test. It's not ours. That's why every year we see council of legislation trying to change it. It's not our stuff. It's owned by the four-way corporation. And so we really want to think about just really what are our practices of our club. And I think the four-way tests do have some value to it, but we have to really allow for that to be a compass to understand who is missing in this four-way test. Because if we truly strive for that since the 1950s, I wouldn't think we will be in this conversation today. Great question. Great comment.
I don't know if I can get my hand up.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, Todd. Congratulations on Mateo. I can't wait. I love seeing his picture. He's just so cute.
Oh, thank you.
I have a question about sexual orientation and gender. And I know as an advisor to a Rotaract club, we have eliminated where you say if you're a male or a female, and there's all different, issues with that because people don't identify as specifically to one or the other. And as you're sitting in the task force at Rotary International, and as we're elevating Rotaractors, that has been a question that some of my Rotaractors have come up with not wanting, that they need to have an other or something if they're going to join the Rotaract Club or the Rotary International, because they don't identify themselves specifically as a male or a female. Has that been coming up in your task force? Because that is an issue.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question and also explanation. Yes, that is very aware in our task force. Right now, Rotary process of collecting demographics is really good on gender because of the global alignment and also around laws of the lands around the world and legally what we can ask and not. But now we're starting to explore other demographics. So like today, Rotary Census was the first time, this is the first year that Rotary Census started asking a little bit more demographic information, because it's kind of hard for us to kind of understand our gaps when we don't really know the true data. So that was a point of our conversation. We did do a random selection around a design around our recent survey that went out to Rotary members randomly. We got over 30,000 response, and we also included those your gender identity as well as sexual orientation options of spectrum on our within our survey. So we are having those conversations, and a practice for you all to think about, just not for Rotaract, because this is another thing that I hear, and not saying you were saying this, Ms. Chris, but in general, I've heard this from other platforms at Rotary. Oh, the young people, we need to do that for the young people. No, you actually have some people in your club that is not so young, was waiting for you to say, give me this option to be included as well. So I want people to understand is that it's not just a generational thing. It's really that we're now able to allow research to give us power to language that's now becoming better practices to build this inclusive climate. So I would encourage you all as a takeaway to look at your processes and like your application for someone to become a new member. Does it say like, do they only have to put their gender? What do we ask a lot in Rotary? Who's your spouse? We ask that a lot. Everyone, Rotarians are nosy. It's like, who's your spouse? We want to know their name too, right? But now you can say, who's your partner, or just have that as an option. Think about single families, single parents, think about caretakers. So you got to think about all these different dimensions. And this is why it's good for you to have a focus group or a committee in your club to really look at all your processes, because sometimes your process is where the biases happen before someone before someone join your club. And then you also got to look externally. Think about your diverse partnerships and who are you engaging with? Someone talked to me about recruitment. How do I recruit diverse people? I said, hey, let's not start with recruitment. How can you relate to diverse people? Let's start with relationship building before you go out and recruit everybody that you are not even prepared to have them in your culture, et cetera, because they're so different. So I would say seek to build intentional relationships, and organically you will broaden your candidate or your recruitment base. Then once they get into the club, or anybody in a club, thinking about the culture of belonging. Do people feel like they can be their best self? What are the structures that's in place that keep people from being authentically them? I know some clubs practice, oh, you got to be a red badge, then a yellow badge, then you become a Rotarian. I'm like, Lord, if I'm just like 21 or trying, about time, I'm not going to wait around. Like I'm paying to be hazed. Like, come on. Like we got to think about these things and these systems. Also think about how we start our meeting. It's like it's grandfather in that the president must start every meeting with the bell. Well, give someone else another opportunity to start the meeting, right? You can pass the baton, like you can do different things. I'm not saying what you're doing today is wrong, but I'm just saying, think about some other ways that you can be innovative to continue to bring everyone in. So great question. And I'm sorry, I did a long follow-up comment. Other questions, other comments, my friends? Go ahead, Mr. Don. I see you over there. Oh, Mr. Don, you're mute.
John, you're muted.
Okay. Is it my turn to talk?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I tried to write you a message here twice.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I have several messages that came in through the
Okay.
direct.
Okay, so here's my comment. You were talking about when somebody shows up at work, that they should be made happy, right? And my comment is when somebody shows up at work, it's not as important for the employee to be happy as it is for the employer to be happy with the employee, that he's going to be effective as an employee. Okay, now I want to couch my statement with the fact that I come in contact with all kinds of people, all different colors, all different nationalities, all different religions, and I get along with all of them. And when they see me, they greet me, and when I see them, I greet them. So I'm not prejudiced against anyone, but as far as making everybody happy and making everybody accept somebody and the way they think, if they don't think the way I think, I don't have to change the way I think and make myself think the way they think. I can appreciate the way they think, but it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to be the same way they are.
Yeah, thank you so much for your comment. And I see your message. I read it again as well as I heard you. Let me just do some correction. So I don't think my intention was not to say that every employee should be happy, but I think it's more or less to look at the culture to ensure that every employee could be their authentic self, which in return from research does equal happiness from a self of comfort. But I will also go the extra mile is that it is something that is dynamically has shifted the entire landscape of the employer, that it's not so much about the employer as much as it is today about the employee. And that's why we're having conversations today, because the employees have now shown up to say, if you don't like all of me, I take my talent elsewhere. And now employers are starting to realize that it's more than about business. It's essentially the critical resource is our people and a holistic approach to that. And so that's just coming from analysis of research. But I think specifically speaking about Rotary, we're more than just a business. We are very people-centered. And so we want people to come and enjoy their experience at Rotary. I think that is the intention. And I think I've also heard you also acknowledge that as well. So thank you so much for that comment. I know we only have 1 minute left, my friends. I just want to remind, I'm sorry.
I have one question that
Okay, go
hopefully
ahead,
you can
Mark.
answer real quickly. So somebody sent this to me and said, what's the biggest obstacle to D&I that you have encountered?
Yeah, people who don't care. That's obstacle. Okay. That's my biggest, but honestly, it's the people who don't care. Could be the obstacle that a lot of people say. I don't think it's my biggest obstacle personally, because I don't focus my energy on people who don't care. I focus on the middle. I focus on motivating the middle and the ones who really wants to continue to do the work. They will naturally show up. And I want to encourage people to do that. But from an organization standpoint, it comes down to the commitment level. And so I know everyone on this call, thank you again. We got 25 seconds. So thank you guys so much for enjoying. Like I said, I put my information, reach out. I have a lot of information. People, everyone, love y'all. You all sent me DMs, but I know I don't have time to answer them all. So here's my LinkedIn as well as my social media. I would love to get on a call and talk to you, but thank y'all so much for having me. Love you. Have a great day.